July 1942, the Crimean Peninsula, Sevastopol. The temperature on the coastal bluffs was somewhere between scorching and suffocating. A young woman, 25 years old, 5'3", and weighing barely 120 pounds, has been lying motionless in the same position for over 4 hours. She is buried under a hand-stitched ghillie suit she assembled herself from strips of burlap and local vegetation. 300 yards ahead of her, a German sniper, one of the Wehrmacht's best, responsible for killing Soviet officers across the Crimean front, is waiting for her. He knows a Soviet sniper is in the area. What he doesn't know, though, is that she is already watching him. What happens next takes less than a second and will be studied in Soviet military academies for the next 30 years. Lyudmila Mikhailovna Pavlichenko was born on July 12, 1916, in Bielotserkava, Ukraine, into a family with no military tradition, no weapons in the house, and no expectation that their daughter would one day be the most lethal female sniper in recorded history. She was studying history at the University of Kiev when Germany invaded the Soviet Union in June 1941. She was 24 years old, academically gifted, and had earned a Voroshilov sharpshooter certificate through factory youth training programs, which was a civilian marksmanship qualification that most Red Army officers would have dismissed as irrelevant. When she presented herself at the recruitment office and asked to fight, the officer in charge looked at her and suggested she become a nurse instead. She asked to be taken to the front line and be handed a rifle. He indulged her, and within 60 seconds, 2 Romanian soldiers were dead. The officer in charge assigned her to the 25th Rifle Division the same afternoon. By the summer of 1941, the Soviet Union was in a state of organized collapse. Within the first 5 months of the German invasion, over 2 million Red Army soldiers had been taken prisoner. A roughly equal number had been killed. City after city fell, Minsk, Kiev, Kharkov, because Stalin's pre-war purges had gutted the officer corps. The military commanders who might have organized effective resistance had been executed or shipped to Siberian labor camps throughout the late 1930s. What was left was an army with rifles, bodies, and almost no experienced leadership. The Germans exploited this with precision. Wehrmacht snipers were deployed specifically to eliminate Soviet officers, picking apart whatever command structure the Red Army managed to reassemble. Every time a unit found competent leadership, a sniper removed it. The Soviets needed a counter. What they got instead was a history student from Kiev. Pavlichenko's first operational posting was Odessa, a Soviet port city the Germans and Romanians were determined to capture. Within her first 3 months in Odessa, she recorded 200 confirmed kills. Soon, she married a fellow sniper named Alexei Kitsenko, and the two of them operated together in the field. When Odessa fell, Pavlichenko was transferred to Sevastopol, where Field Marshal Erich von Manstein's 11th Army was tightening a siege that would last most of 1942. The fighting in the Crimea was unlike anything in Odessa, and this is where Pavlichenko's record takes on a dimension that separates her from virtually every other sniper of the war. Of her 309 confirmed kills, 36 were German snipers. Sniper versus sniper engagements are categorically different from standard sniper operations. Both sides know the other is present, but the advantage goes to whoever is more patient, more disciplined, and has chosen the better ground. Pavlichenko won 36 of those engagements without losing one. German military intelligence took notice, and so they began broadcasting radio messages directed at her specifically, offering money, rank, and guaranteed safety if she defected. She did not respond. Then, her husband was killed. Kitsenko died in combat sometime during the Sevastopol siege, and Pavlichenko was wounded by shrapnel on the same day. She was not given time to grieve, and the Soviet system had no mechanism for processing it even if she had been. She buried it and went back to work. By the time a German mortar shell detonated close enough to wound her in the face, nearly destroying her left eye, Pavlichenko had reached 309 confirmed kills. The unofficial count, based on field reports that were never formally verified, runs as high as 400. Stalin ordered her evacuated by submarine because the German naval presence in the Black Sea made every other extraction method too risky, and because the Soviet Union had at this point recognized that Lyudmila Pavlichenko was more valuable as a living symbol than as another casualty in Crimea. She was pulled from the front before Sevastopol fell in the summer of 1942, with 309 kills on record and a face that was still healing. In August 1942, Pavlichenko arrived in the United States as part of a Soviet delegation visiting Allied nations. She was the first Soviet citizen to be received at the White House, where President Franklin Roosevelt met with her. Eleanor Roosevelt was particularly taken with her and arranged a cross-country tour in which Pavlichenko spoke at public events about the war, about Soviet women in combat, and about the strategic situation on the Eastern Front. The American press did not know how to handle her. Multiple newspapers noted, with what they seemed to believe was relevant commentary, that she wore no makeup and had a scar on her cheek. At one press conference, a reporter asked what she thought of American women's fashion. Pavlichenko looked at the room and said that she found it surprising that anyone was interested in the cut of her jacket when she had 309 kills to discuss. The room went quiet. The United States government presented her with a Colt Model 1911 pistol. Canada gave her a Winchester Model 70 with a Winchester telescopic sight, a rifle that now sits in the Central Armed Forces Museum in Moscow. She toured the United Kingdom with the same message. The Soviet Union was fighting a war of survival. Women were fighting in it, and the Allies needed to open a second front in Western Europe before the Eastern Front broke entirely. Pavlichenko returned to the Soviet Union and was assigned as a senior sniper instructor, training the next generation of Red Army marksmen until the end of the war. On Stalin's personal order, she also returned to university and completed her master's degree in military history. She worked as a researcher for the Soviet Navy until 1953. She was awarded the Hero of the Soviet Union, the highest military honor the country could give, and received the Order of Lenin twice. Eleanor Roosevelt visited the Soviet Union in 1957 and sought her out specifically, calling her, in the former First Lady's characteristic understatement, the finest example of a woman warrior she had ever encountered. On October 10, 1974, Lyudmila Pavlichenko died of a stroke. She was 58 years old. She was buried with full military honors at Novodevichy Cemetery in Moscow, which is where she remains.